Okay, verse 23 of Matthew 23. We are in the part 3, so lots of threes here. Let's begin. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees. Again, we're continuing with our 7 woes. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. Well, if that's not a picture. Okay, so uh, first of all, Jesus still obeyed the Torah. We see Micah 6:8. Let's turn there. Micah 6:8. He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. So that is what he's quoting here, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, faithfulness. That's what he's saying. So these are the things you're required to do. Yet you're so focused on these scrupulous little ridiculous things, and you're weighing out all these little things like the cumin, the mint, and the dill, all this, trying to give a tenth of that. You're very specific and scrupulous and meticulous, but you've totally neglected the important things, like to love mercy, to walk humbly with your God, to love justice. All these things you've completely thrown that out to focus on the teeny tiny little things that don't even matter compared. And then he uses this. I love this picture that he uses. You strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel. So we have this picture of a cup. Of course, I'm using my teacup, that the fruits of the spirit cup. But you have a cup, and when you're straining out tea or you're straining out anything else, you put it over top, and you get all the drink through, and that way you strain out anything that shouldn't belong in there. So you are very meticulous. You want to make sure that you don't get a gnat in there. But here's the thing: a gnat is considered an unclean creature, because in the Old Testament, pretty much any of the unwinged or the winged creatures, like insects particularly, were considered unclean. Well, camels were also considered unclean. So here's this picture of a cup, and you're getting rid of the gnat. You're getting rid of the tiny little unclean thing. Yet, you're swallowing an entire camel that can't even fit into your cup, but you're still swallowing that. That unclean thing, that has become a part of your life. You've taken it in, and you're not even concerned about it. You're concerned about the tiny little gnat that's inside of your cup. So that is the comparison he's making. So then he continues on with his cup analogy. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish. Okay, so same thing. You have a cup, you have a dish, and you're cleaning the outside. But what about a cup that is filthy and has gross dirt and murk? Which he continues. Okay, so but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, then the outside also will be clean. So we see this even in the church. People will clean the outside. Let's look good on the outside. Everything looks great and beautiful and clean, and we look wonderful. But inside, is there dirt? I mean, if you have gunk and mud or parasites and everything that's inside the cup, I would rather drink from a cup that's dirty on the outside. When my kids have muddy hands, and they have gotten their muddy hands all over the cup, I honestly would rather drink from that if I knew the inside of the cup was clean than from a cup that is filthy on the inside, filled with mud and parasites and worms or whatever, and the outside is clean. And that's what he's saying. This is the picture. You are more concerned about what you look like on the outside than what is inside. You have swallowed a camel because you're more concerned about the tiny little things and taking care of all this stuff. And you are filled with sin, and you will not get into the kingdom of God. And that's what he said even in just a little bit ago. You have shut the kingdom of heaven in other people's faces. You're not even entering it because you swallowed this camel of sin and uncleanness in your heart. And he continues in 27. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of dead men's bones and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Using just a different analogy, but communicating the same thing. You think you look good on the outside, and you look great. During this time in the culture, tombs were actually marked with white chalk. So that way people that would come across would know, because if you came in contact with a tomb, then you were unclean for a certain amount of days. You had to be purified. I think it's 7 days. But also it was done to beautify the tombs. So they would, it was kind of like graffiti in a way, but beautiful art done with a lot of white stuff. So this is kind of the reference, but it might look beautiful on the outside of this tomb, but inside is death, is darkness, there's bones, there's decay, there's rot, all these things that are inside of the tomb. And this is what you look like. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves. Another translate, or the Greek actually says monuments of the righteous. So you have tombs and you monuments. And you say, if we had lived in the days of our forefathers, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of prophets. So you testify against yourselves that you are the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. So you're saying that you are a descendant of them. You are part of their family, and you're proudful to even say that you're part of that lineage that killed the prophets. Fill up then the measure of the sin of your forefathers. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore, I am sending you prophets and wise men and teachers, which we know that he sent John the Baptist and he sent others. Some of them you will kill and crucify, others you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town. And so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you the truth, all this will come upon this generation. That's hard. Okay, so we understand there's a few things here. He has been holding off punishment on these religious leaders, but now they are ripe for it. They have pushed away Jesus as the Messiah. We're getting closer and closer to, again, his crucifixion, and he is he's beginning the domino effect of what's going to take place to lead him to this point. So he's getting the ball rolling because of he gave them so much opportunity to be able to receive him, and they would not. Okay, so here's a couple other things. We do know that a lot of the disciples were martyred for their faith, and in some horrible ways. We know that some of them were saved, like John. He was put into a vat of boiling oil, and he would not recant. He would not deny Christ because they had walked with Christ. Same for those today who will give everything up. They will give up their lives because they know who God is. And when you've experienced who Jesus is, you cannot and you will not betray Jesus. You will not choose life over Christ. You will always choose Christ because in him is life. So that's what is going to happen, and we see this in their history, that this does take place. Many are flogged, many are crucified. Peter is crucified upside down. He was actually going to be crucified, and he said, no, I'm not even worthy to be crucified the same way my Lord was. So he was crucified upside down. Many were flogged. We see Stephen, who was also flogged, and he was stoned, and he still also would not deny the faith. And then it says, so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth. So he starts with the very first murder in the Bible, the bloodshed, and that is of Abel, because Cain killed his brother Abel in the garden, not in the Garden of Eden, but in the beginning of time. First murder there. And then to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah. Now there is some reference that may have been in 2 Chronicles 24, 20 to 22. That is the very last murder that is that we see in the Old Testament, but is actually may very likely be John the Baptist's father, because we see this reference also in Matthew 3, I think it is. It could have been him, which would have been the most recent death. And because of the fact that we know the history, which we talked about before, several chapters back, that there was a lot of bloodshed of the prophets, that they killed many. They drove them out of the temple and they killed many, and they also killed many there at the altars, between the temple and the altar. But also the reference in 2 Chronicles 24 does reference this as well. So we can turn there as we leave this off with 2 Chronicles 24, 20. So it does line up But there's also a couple things that some people wonder if that is who he's talking about here. So it's just one of those mysteries that we will know later on when we get to heaven. But this is 2 Chronicles 24:20-22. Then the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah, son of Jehoiada, the priest. He stood before the people and said, "This is what God says. Why do you disobey the Lord's commands? You will not prosper, because you have forsaken the Lord. He has forsaken you." This is another reason why people think that this might be the reference, because of what's taking place here. It very much goes right along with what God is talking about. But they plotted against him, and by order of the king, they stoned him to death in the courtyard of the Lord's temple. King Joash did not remember the kindness Zechariah's father Jehoiada had shown him, but killed his son, who said as he lay dying, "May the Lord see this and call you to account." And now this is their account, the day of reckoning. And Jesus is saying that all the bloodshed from the very beginning of time to the last bloodshed will be on your heads. And this is what Ezekiel talks about. The blood will be on your head, on your hands, of those who lead God's people, God's sheep astray. So, not easy. Very, very hard word to hear, but they weren't hearing him anyway. They truly turned away from Jesus as their Messiah. And because of that, this was the curse and the punishment that would befall them. So let's pick up tomorrow, verse 37, where Jesus shows his compassionate heart.